turn now to Damien Collins, MP for Folkestone and Hythe, of course, and also former chair of the Media, Culture and Sport Committee, who has spoken out about poor broadband speeds for many of his constituents in the past. Damien, thank you for being here. How is it then in Folkestone and Hythe at the moment? Has there been any improvement since you've been speaking out on this issue?
Yes, there has. I mean, there has been a considerable investment in superfast broadband in Kent and increasingly in the rural areas, particularly in the North Downs and places like Romney Marsh. But there are still areas which aren't covered, and it's small comfort if your home is one of those homes that hasn't yet got a decent broadband service to know that most other places have. I mean, overall, not more than 95% of homes and businesses do have a good broadband service, but these sort of not-spot areas where homes are not properly covered, and the reason that happens is often the properties are further away from the exchange boxes. The exchange boxes themselves are upgraded, but if you're still quite a distance from that box, you may not benefit from that service. So what the Gigabit project does is look to bring fibre connectivity to hard-to-reach homes that a business might not connect because they might not think they would make enough money out of the investment necessary to make that connection. So that's where the government can step in and provide that support to help homes that are still in areas where there is poor service.
Yes, we call them not spots sometimes, don't we, where it's really difficult. And I understand it really does affect even house prices in the area, and particularly, I suppose, post-pandemic, lots of people might think, I'll move to a lovely place outside London, I'll work from home. Well, they're not going to move to an area, if they've done the research and it's got poor broadband speeds, are they?
Well, the thing is, one of the real difficulties can be that an area looks like it's well served, but there are properties within it that aren't. So you might do a postcode check to search up to see what the quality of the speed is in that area, and that might give you a general reflection on, say, the broadband speeds in a particular village. But you might find that not all the homes in the village are served from the same telephone exchange, and some others may be served from an exchange which is further from their properties, and the speeds can be slower. But there are things you can do as well. So as has been discussed, you've got the right to ask for 10 megabit per second download broadband under the universal service obligation. If you live in an area with very poor broadband, there's also a government voucher scheme which you can benefit from and club together with a group of other properties to see if you could use those vouchers to pay a company to install it. There are also alternative providers in my constituency, certainly in places like New Romney and in Hawkinge. There have been alternative fibre providers that have now come into the market offering a better service for people. So there are options there, and all I'd say is if you live in a property that's still got a very poor service, if you go onto the gov.uk website, or you'll find links there which will show you what schemes you might qualify for to benefit you. And obviously, hopefully, some of those homes will directly benefit from the Project Gigabit, and there are over 120,000 homes and properties in Kent that will benefit from the announcement the government's made this week.
The problem with that, though, is that it's not coming in until April 2023, as I understand it, and I'm wondering why it needs to take so long. If the money is available now, can't we get I was going to say the pipes laid, but the fibre connection cables, that's probably a better way to put it, in now?
Well, I mean, the government funding for Project Gigabit is coming in a further 2 phases, and we're the second of those phases, so which is why there's a bit of a delay on that. Like you, I'd like to see it done as quick as possible. But there are these other projects, so if you can ask under the universal service obligation, and if you believe your service is that poor, it is worth getting that checked just to see whether you do qualify. And there is the government voucher scheme as well, which I know for certain areas of my constituency, particularly in some of the villages in the North Downs where the service is slow, that some of those postcode areas do qualify for this voucher scheme as well, so it's worth checking that out.
Yeah, and we spoke so many times, didn't we, over the pandemic about digital poverty. It wasn't just connection, it was having a laptop for homeschooling or working from home as well. Do you think that will be something that stays on the government's agenda post-pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, certainly in terms of the quality of the infrastructure, which is really important now because, more so during the pandemic, but it's become just such an essential tool for everyday life, not just being able to fill in forms online, but actually to be able to use video streaming services to communicate with other people. Video conferencing has become something probably most people have now done, maybe many of those people who had never done it before until the pandemic started.
That's true, but it's interesting that I'm just reaching for the Times this morning, front page. Rishi Sunak saying, if you want to get on, go back to the office. Do you think there'll be a drive actually to get more people not working from home but going back? Because Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, says it could harm your career if you stay at home.
Well, I think people will go. I don't think it's a question of saying, will we switch to not going back and not wanting to work with other people again? I think people do enjoy being around other people and working with other people. I think what's more likely is people will try and build greater flexibility into their jobs, particularly if you have childcaring responsibilities. Would you rather be in the office earlier, leave a bit earlier, and then work at home online in the evenings? Would you like a bit more flexibility? Not necessarily to commute every day if you commute up to London, maybe just to do it 3 or 4 days a week. I think that's what the change will be, is people wanting that flexibility, not people saying, I don't actually want to go back to working in a shared environment. And
I suppose it's good quality broadband, finally, that will allow that to happen, will allow a happier, healthier, more flexible society.
Yeah, that's right. That is an essential tool. And so for most people in Kent who live in good-sized towns, big villages, then they will already have a good service. Many of them will already have a fibre service to their home. But there are not-spot areas that don't, and those are the ones we've got to get up to speed.
Indeed. On that point, Damien, thank you so much for being here today. That's Damien Collins, the MP for Folkestone and Hythe, former chair of the Media, Culture and Sport Committee.